Hey guys, it's Christian McCaffrey, pro running back. I'm partnering with Abercrombie this season to tell you about their viral denim. All you need to know is denim should fit like this. Abercrombie's athletic fit is a game changer. They're designed for guys with an athlete's build like mine. Just enough room and the perfect stretch. When a jean fits that well, I'm wearing it on repeat. Shop Abercrombie Denim in the app, online, and in store.
With the Walmart app, you can squeeze in those final days of summer and nail that back-to-school shopping list. So keep working on that tan and let Walmart Express Delivery handle the rest. Chromebooks, Clorox wipes, Sharpies, glue sticks, pens, pencils, and more. All delivered in as fast as an hour. So pour yourself another iced tea. Summer's not over. Last-minute back-to-school supplies delivered fast. The Walmart you thought you knew is now new. Subject to availability. Fees and restrictions apply.
Hello, friends and family. Welcome back to the Sober is Dope podcast. I'm your host, Pop Buchanan. Today, I have a really exciting guest, Anna Runkle. Now, this episode is going to be really deep. It's about connectivity, healing childhood wounds, and more. So I'm going to read her bio, but I'm really excited to get her on. So let's get to it. Anna Runkle, known to millions as the Crappy Childhood Fairy, is a leading voice in trauma recovery with over millions of followers across platforms and 78 million YouTube views. A survivor of childhood trauma herself, Anna has spent more than 30 years helping others heal emotional wounds and reconnect with life through her simple science-backed methods. She's the creator of the Crappy Childhood Fairy healing method, offering practical tools to regulate the nervous system, reduce shame, and overcome self-isolating behaviors, whether or not someone has access to professional help. Her upcoming book, Connectability, Heal the Hidden Ways You Isolate, Find Your People, and Feel at Last Like You Belong, reveals how unresolved trauma often leads to disconnection and how to rebuild the social skills, trust, and confidence needed to create meaningful relationships. Anna's work is widely used by individuals, therapists, and coaches alike, and her message offers hope for anyone ready to break free from the loneliness of trauma and rediscover connection. She lives in San Francisco Bay Area with her husband and 2 sons. It's an absolute honor to speak to Anna Runkle today on the Sober is Dope podcast. And without further ado, let's bring her on. Welcome, friends and family, back to the Sober is Dope podcast. I'm your host, Pop Buchanan, and I'm super excited to have Anna Runkle on the podcast, as she's known as the Crappy Childhood Fairy, as she has all of these amazing insights and tools on how you can heal yourself. And I'm generalizing it because she knows so much, and she offers so much to the community. So I'm really excited today. Anna, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Pop. I'm so happy to meet you in person here.
I'm super hyped. All right, so first thing I want to ask you is, you're known as the Crappy Childhood Fairy. You have millions of followers. How did you come about that name, and how did your journey begin?
Well, it was 31 years ago that I was really suffering with complex PTSD, but back then there was no name for it. I grew up in a family, both my parents were alcoholic, but my mom was like a super alcoholic and a heroin addict. And when my parents split when I was little, she turned our house into a commune. We lived in Berkeley. And so we had a whole house full of people who were drinking, doing drugs, doing crazy sex things in front of the kids. It was a pretty toxic environment. And there was a lot of neglect. It's one of the things that I feel like we don't talk about enough, but like meals were not served. And I became very clever at making friends with people whose moms in the neighborhood would have me over to dinner and, give sleepovers and, just help me get what I needed to take care of myself. Now, I'm in my early 60s, and this was back in the late 60s, early 70s in Berkeley. It was a really crazy time. And in those days, you didn't report people for not taking care of their kids, but we were like really not taken care of. I got picked up by the police when I was 6 in Reno because I was sitting outside of a casino for hours.
Wow.
I'd had nothing to eat. My mom had just like vanished, and And there were no consequences of that. My mom eventually showed up late at night at the police station and they gave me to her and we went home.
Wow.
I know. It's weird, huh? But as a kid, I wouldn't have wanted to be taken away. I frantically figured out I learned to cover for the alcoholic. And so the police were like, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "I got lost. She's looking for me now. I was the bad kid. I got lost." Actually, she just said, "Here, sit here. I'll be right back." And then 11 hours later. So I learned to cover for her very early on. And you're not going to get invited to play with other kids if they know what's going on at your house. But a lot of people think of, I went to Al-Anon. That was my 12-step program later, saved my life. But a lot of people thought, I think what took me a long time to get there was because when people talk about the people affected by other people's drinking, they often use the word like codependent or co-alcoholic, or like people in AA used to joke and go, "Well, you just love alcoholics." It's like, I do, but my central problem is actually here. It's not you, it's here.
Right.
That I have this weird way that I abandon myself and try to manage every situation to stay alive. I don't do that anymore. But that's the core problem. And when I had to really define what I was powerless over, because they say like, "Oh, I'm powerless over alcohol," but it's not the same for us as it is for an alcoholic. It's not this. I'm powerless over my tendency to pull away from people at the worst possible time, and to pull away from people when what I really need is to be connected to people. And that was the ways that I would do that was through all kinds of self-sabotage and lashing out and things that I now know have a name called complex PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
And that my problem is its very own problem. It's not in reference to somebody else's drinking necessarily, even though obviously that affected me. But complex PTSD, when I learned that word much later, after I was in recovery, everything came together for me. It wasn't just about my mom and what she did. It's like I had a neurological injury from all the neglect and the abuse that happened that my mom didn't protect me from. Yeah.
Right. Complex PTSD. Can you talk about that a bit? Like kind of give us some context on what that is?
Well, this is it's not in here in the US, it's not even in the diagnostic manual yet. And there's a lot of debate about
It's not in the DSM-5?
No,
Whoa.
it is elsewhere. It's in the international manual, like other people recognize it. But I mean, it's obvious I'm not a therapist. I have common sense. And it's obvious that people who were neglected and abused as kids have kind of a set of symptoms. Many of us have the same ones. But I didn't know that. I thought I was like this weirdo who had these problems that I would try to like hide and manage. But it turns out everything that I struggled with are very common symptoms of complex PTSD. And some people debate. They go, "Oh, everybody has trauma now. Everybody's a victim." And I'm just like, you obviously don't have what I have.
Right.
If you think it's just this thing that we're whining about to get attention, there's a neurological injury that happens when kids are neglected or abused. And CPTSD can develop at any time in life. I suspect in the future we'll have a different name for the kind that starts because of trauma in adulthood, chronic, ongoing, intense stress, maybe like living through a war.
Mm-hmm.
That I think it might be a little bit different, similar, but a little different than what develops when the chronic, ongoing, intense stress was happening when you were 6 months, a year, 2 years, 4 years, 6 years. And when you're developing, you're in those developmental stages.
Right.
Your brain is putting together all these networks and connections, and nobody's looking you in the eye. You're not getting adequate food, or there are many forms of neglect and abuse, but those are some of the things that happen at my house. And so I as a YouTuber now, I have this amazing opportunity to learn how other people have been affected by this. And it's been one of the most healing things.
Right.
To find out that it's it's a thing. It's not a personal character defect. I have character defects, but having neurological injuries is not a character defect.
Absolutely. Well, we all know that, when things that happen to us in our childhood sets the stage for how we develop later on in life. And you can't ignore that. I love the old adage. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, where they say, heal. I like to paraphrase it to make it inclusive, but they say it's usually heal the boy and the man will appear, or heal the child and the adult will appear. It's kind of a central theme I've been working on, like going back to the root causes of your trauma, trying to do some personal self-reflection and investigation on your total life and actually do an inventory, like go back and say, how was my childhood? What possibly could have happened to me that may have affected me later? So for me, for example, I had a certain level of trauma from the early death of my father. And without adequate bereavement counseling or talking or unloading this, what happened to me was he was like my absolute hero. It was like if I could God, it was like God, then my dad, and they were like interchangeable. And I mean, I was like 12 or 13, super impressionable. I'm a very emotional kid. I have a great sixth sense, meaning that I could sense other people's energy. So I was like the only one in my house looking at everybody like, can't y'all see something's wrong with dad? And I just felt like he's not well, and why is nobody doing anything? And then he actually died right in front, like he had a heart attack and died. And I'm like, I mean, it was like my worst nightmare unraveled in front of me. And in my mind, I'm 12 at the 12, 13, and I'm just like, my world is over. It's like rapture. I was red lights everywhere. I had a external supernatural experience. I was seeing lights. I went to bed and was surrounded by lights flashing. It was like my whole life changed in a second. And my heart was broken. And, people tend to go on. A couple of months later, everyone's back. They just doing their thing. And in my household, we were all just quiet for years. It was my mother. My older brother was a priest. He went off to church to do the seminary. My other brother was already out the house. So I was the oldest one, my younger brother, and my two sisters and our mom. And we would just listen to Michael Jackson and Seal and just quiet. We didn't really talk. We just listened to music and was just healing. And we had our faith. But that literally did a number on me for the rest of my life. So by the time alcohol was introduced to me, I was this raging Tasmanian devil. And, unpacking all of that, it goes back to a lot of my childhood. And that was in its own way, its own form of PTSD from a young age, because I was like, my mind couldn't differentiate that this wasn't my paradigm, my archetype, my hero and everything, and he just died. So it was tough. So I say all of that to say that's why this episode is important, because I want everyone in the community now. So let's frame it correctly. Most of us we can have crappy childhoods or amazing childhoods, but there's aspects of your childhoods that's shaping who you are now. So we have to start looking at what healing looks like for us. So that brings me to my next question. How does childhood trauma impact our ability to form deep, trusting connections as adults?
Ha. Yeah. Well, I I ended up writing a whole book about it called
Right.
Connectability. My first book is about dysregulation, and it touches on the connection, but there's this connection wound that I suspect is almost universal for people who were neglected or abused as kids. And like what you described, that's neglect, to not help a 12, 13-year-old process the death of his dad is such deep emotional neglect. Gosh. And so there's our capacity to connect it's part social, it's part physiological, it's part neurological, it's a brain thing. There's all these levels that are happening. It's behavioral. But I feel like so much the culture has focused on psychological, that everything is psychological, and everything is somewhat psychological. But what I learned when the literature came out about complex PTSD is that the ability to connect has a lot to do with how your brain functions. And that interacts with, if you had an experience of like a lot of rejection or bullying as a kid, you're going to pull back a little bit. But if you were just generally in a lot of chaos and stress as a kid, and you didn't learn how to self-regulate your nervous system, you're living in a state of dysregulation half the time, maybe more than that. And every time something triggers you, when I say trigger, what I mean is it sets off neurological dysregulation. You're dysregulated because these things start to happen where you feel kind of like clumsy, discombobulated, not quite in your body, spaced out, or emotionally, you kind of like flash, like it gets too big all of a sudden, like you rage at somebody out of the blue, or have a panic attack, or when you fall in love, it's like, it's true love today, the day you met them, there's like
Right.
emotional dysregulation. And so that's part of that. Like it's just such a relief to me to know I'm not crazy. I have a neurological injury that always made me a little bit prone to that. And boy, you can damage your life with emotional dysregulation. So the dysregulation is there. And if you never had a word for it and you never had tools to know how to get re-regulated, you're on your own. So like one thing that I found that's really great is cigarettes. I would just smoke 2 a day. They help you re-regulate for a
Right.
while. They work for a while. They're like booze for a while. It just like does the trick.
Right.
And then it doesn't. And then everybody's like disgusted with you. And so a sufficient substitute has to be found
Right.
to learn to re-regulate. And so intense relationships can be re-regulating at first, or casual sex at first can be re-regulating, and then it's dysregulating. And so that's the thing about these self-defeating behaviors. We grasp at them to try to like regulate, to just like be okay, not just emotionally okay, but just to like focus our minds and be able to get through the day. Some lucky people, like they found sports or something, which is also very regulating. Singing with other people, martial arts, dance. These are all things that help regulate the nervous system. And so a lot of traumatized kids, they found things like that, and that's a resilience factor. And so a lot of us have pulled away from people as another dysfunctional way to manage dysregulation. And it's so subtle. It's such a hidden way that we isolate from people. And it looks like this. Like some people are just total isolators and they're like, I hate people. I only do pets. I read books. I hang out with my dog. I'm not going to do anything else. That's how bad their trauma is. But a lot of us are somewhere in this gray zone where we look like we're having a social life. We might have a partner. We might have a job where there's other people and we hang out with them a little bit. But everybody is held at arm's length. We're never really committing to these people. We're never really listening to them. We're never really sharing ourselves with them. Or we say, oh, I'll show up at that thing, and then we don't at the last minute. Or we do, but we look at our phone the whole time. There's just a way that we're always buffering against the stress of being around people. And if you're not, it's like, have you ever noticed, I've known a lot of people who smoke pot all the time, every day.
Yeah, I do too.
We all know such people, right?
Right.
I've noticed they're really angry. That there's a lot of anger under that a lot of times. And that usually the mantra of somebody who's smoking pot all the time is, hey, I'm mellow.
Right.
I'm low key, I'm good. And I was like, I don't know, my nervous system senses something else going on here.
Right.
And I just assume, like, I'm not going to speak for everybody, but I think there's a pattern there of like trying to self-treat this like anger, this emotional thing that you can't manage. And so it dumbs you down and numbs you down for a while. And God bless those things that did that for us, at least to stay alive. But here we are at a stage where more is going to be required to feel okay, that we're going to have to like break through.
It's summer. Time to enjoy long days, lazy nights, and great food. Because Uber Eats has deals all summer long. So when hunger strikes, don't sweat it. Delicious deals are just a tap away on Uber Eats. Enjoy all your favorite grocery items delivered straight to you. Get ice cream, soda, and snacks from your favorite stores like Wegmans and CVS and make the most of every moment. Now that sounds like a good summer. Order now on Uber Eats. Terms apply. Product availability varies by region. See app for details.
This episode is sponsored by Friskies, who would like to tell your cats hi. Now, if that didn't get your cat's attention, there is one thing that always does the trick. Just pour some Friskies crunchy food in the bowl and you'll hear those paws come running. Works every time. With so many Friskies choices, you can always bring your cats running from their secret napping spots. There's always more to explore. See for yourself at friskies.com or visit your local store.
Absolutely. So you touched on so much. So here, I want to unpack that like this. I talk about this a lot on the Sober is Dope podcast on how like grief, loss, and trauma affects the brain through neuroplasticity, meaning that our brain can change, right? It could change. It's always changing. And by the way, I want everyone to know that it's not just like one thing happened and you go through this shift. Every second of the day, your brain is finding neural pathways, is finding it's rewiring, unwiring, so to say. So I always encourage people to focus on the fact that you can do things to positively influence your neuroplasticity and acknowledging your trauma. So most people have this disconnection. If you go through any type of grief or loss, whether it's a breakup, a death in the family, losing your job, your brain will start to change and you will have these mental health or these emotional effects because of it. Right. And that's really important because it also works with our dopamine. And then that also works with it to a certain degree. And I want to be careful how I say this. I think you was touching on this, and I wanted to ask you about this, the fight, flight, or fear response, right? That heightened parasympathetic response that people have. And some of us is elevated in that response all day. You're always like this. Like my mother, I remember she would smoke cigarettes and she will always have her fist like this. Like she'll be talking. And one day I'm like, I felt like saying, Mom, unclench your fist. Like it's okay, relax.
I relate to that energy. Yeah, I do.
So when we go through our trauma, our addictions, our recovery, our life, we're gonna always be affected by these things, and either we shut down or either we look for ways to cope. Hence the addiction. So can we talk about that against the fight, flight, fear, and that parasympathetic response, our brains, and just the whole mental health aspect of it?
Well, yeah, the fight, flight, fear, or freeze responses have to do with the nervous system, and I'm aware of them, but I always tend to translate them into my mind as sort of the relational thing.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, they call those the 4 Fs, and we joke around at Crappy Childhood that there's at least 6 of them because there's like fix, and then there's the one we're not going to say. But it's like a trauma reaction. It's like when all hell breaks loose. You know what I did?
Right. I like that.
Yeah, but there's fixers and yeah.
The other one. I like that.
Ers and yeah.
Right.
And but the fight, I'm a fighter. And so I relate to your mom, just like, I'm going to push everything ahead here. I'm going to yell at the people who get in my way. And that's my defense mechanism. And in a way, I'm grateful because fighting is at least like trying to keep your spirit alive. Like all of it is trying to keep your spirit alive. In a way, we can just like go, oh, good job, little me. Because yes, I had to like silence myself and hide and get small and whatever I had to do. But I'm here now and my spirit is intact and I'm going to bring it back into the world as it was meant to be. And oh, that's like such a change. There was so much shame involved in these trauma reactions, whether you fight and you yell at people and lose your temper. It's very common. That's the one that other people notice the most. But then freeze, people don't always notice that, but freeze is when, somebody starts yelling and you just can't move and you can't get away from it. And,
wow, right.
Get very quiet. And then though fawning is really difficult, and fawning is very hard for me to be around, where people are projecting. Like I now it's like spin the dial. I think I can't diagnose people, but I just noticed that people who had a narcissist parent, they often will be very fawning, and it's hard for me to be around that. And they are trying to make me so happy, and it doesn't make me happy. I'm just like, be straightforward with me. Like, what's wrong? Is something wrong? Do you need something?
Right.
They're all, oh, you're just so amazing, Anna. And I'm like, okay, yeah, but what's going on? Why are you, you came to me. Was there something you wanted to say? And then I come off as impatient. My fight is
you're ready. Right.
And so it's this like really like bad vibe. And for me, for my fight reaction, all of my recovery has been moving in the direction. I didn't know that I needed this, but it's the fruit shows up whether you knew is where it was taking you or not. But as I've had less fear, less resentment, more experience, more steadiness, more changes in the people who populate my life, gradually. So there's less trouble.
Right.
And less trouble means less trauma. So it gradually got better. But I find that I'm a lot more open-hearted with people. I'm able to stay more patient with them. get less frustrated and like, come on, get to the point here. What
Right.
this thing, your
Chop,
mom's
chop,
this.
chop, 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 chop.
Yeah, I have this beautiful niece, and I just adore her. And we're taking a vacation together, starting this weekend. And she lived with me for a while when she was a teenager, and she's a gifted artist. And I saw on her Facebook page a drawing that she did, and I recognized it was me. And it would have been when she lived with me and she was in high school and I was driving her to school. And it's this
Oh,
drawing of me where I literally have my hands like this on the steering wheel and I'm leaning forward with this like,
yeah, right.
oh, it just like stabbed me in the heart. I was able to talk to her about it. I'm like, I saw your drawing and I feel so bad that I laid that energy on you. And she fawned. She was like, that's okay. That's okay. But
Oh,
I
wow.
said, now that you're an adult, I just want to tell you that was a really hard time. It was like after the housing crash. I didn't have any work. I had you living with me. I had my 2 kids. I was a single mom. I didn't know what I was going to do. I was scared every day. And I felt like my trauma reaction to that situation that so many people have been in was, just like, I've got to make this go right.
Right, right,
It
right,
was scaring the kids,
right.
it was very scary for the kids.
But it was scary for you
Oh,
too.
I was scared to death. I
I could
didn't,
relate. A lot of that was you just didn't want to mess anything up. You didn't want to
yeah,
injure her. You wanted to get through the day successfully. You wanted to hit your goals. It was
yeah.
intense. It's a lot. It's a lot. I feel it. I felt it.
I was scared my kids were going to have to go back to their dad. Not that he's bad, but that I wouldn't get to keep them and I'd have to go live with my stepdad who didn't want me there. Like the thing that I was facing was quite terrifying. There was a lot
Right,
going on.
right.
I had this whole like medical thing and it's just one thing after another.
Life
These
is the
neighbors were like shunning me. It was just sometimes you get these trauma storms. And so when I told her that, and now that, yeah, I think she was about 30 when I told her that, and she goes, oh, I had no idea you were going through all that. I was just a teenager and I didn't know. And I feel for you. And I never expected that. So we've had this like just total mutual understanding. Yeah, we've had it tough. We
right.
we handled it. And that's that I'm so grateful to be like coming through the other side of this tunnel of so many hard things, like so many wounds and reasons why I didn't know why I had such dysfunctional behaviors. You know what mine was? I would just keep getting into relationships with the most effed up men.
All
I
right.
would not see it coming. I
Yeah.
c and I would wake up in the middle of it and just be like, "How did I get into this situation again? I'm so
Right.
embarrassed." But I
Right.
couldn't leave because I have an abandonment wound.
Wow, this is heavy. This is good.
Yeah.
This is good stuff. Oh man.
So even after many aspects of my life were together, like 12 years, working the steps every day in Al-Anon, I quit. My first marriage fell apart and I quit and I didn't do anything for a couple years. I lost faith. I was like,
Mm,
there's no God. Why was I such an idiot? Because I was raised atheist, but when I
mm,
first got the steps, I had such a strong radical white light spiritual awakening. Like it just changed everything. So for me to just go, that was bullshit. That was a very serious, like bad turn,
right.
It's not even true. I know for certain, I was shown for certain that I belong here and that I'm connected to all things. I was shown all in one big moment, like something profound that you can't ever go back from. I'm part of this world, and so are you, and so are the rocks.
Right.
You
Right.
can't take us out. We're
Right.
here. We're meant to be here. We're loved. I saw it, but I was just like, no, the husband left. Now I'm a single mom. I'm broke. What am I going to do? I was despairing. And then I got together with a guy who was secretly using heroin and I didn't know. Smoking
Wow.
it.
Oh man, that's tough.
I was like, how come your house always smells like burnt sugar? And he's like, I don't know. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And he was so nice, so helpful, It was just like devastating. And then finally he told me what was really going on. And, calamity ensued, a lot of crazy, me saying, I know, I've got a plan. I've got a plan for you. You're going to go to
Yeah.
meetings every
You gotta
day.
fix him. You the
I'm going to
fixer
save
kicked
this
in.
situation. Yeah. I was
Right.
just trying, like I knew better, but it's like, it makes you irrational. It's so tragic. And yeah, he ended up dying. He died.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
And at least, the only bright side of that was I did not continue in that relationship.
Right,
The
right.
option was no longer open to me. And I was able to use that as a turning point to go really deeper into my recovery. and
Mm.
really changed some things that I didn't realize, I don't know, needed to be changed. I did not want God to come in and do anything to me because I was really scared. You know what I was scared of?
What?
God runs my life. I'll never have a man.
Oh,
I know.
okay.
But I had so many. It was fine. No, I had one after that. I had one. I didn't date for a long time, and I changed my life around who I date because that was my weak point.
Right.
And the only person I dated after that was my husband, and it was a very long courtship, and I'm married to him, and he's downstairs right now.
Oh, let's go.
Became my
That's
good husband, yeah.
that's beautiful. I love how that turned.
Yeah,
That's beautiful.
yeah.
Now you said something that I love. You said that you're finally coming out the other side, right? And we started talking about PTSD. Are you familiar with the work from Dr. Michael Tedeschi for post-traumatic growth and the concept of like coming out of that trauma different and a little bit better?
Yes, yes, and, that's, like, the most important thing. That's the thing that people should read first, you know, yeah, all this stuff happened, but if you can find a way to handle it and handle it long enough. For me, the two crucial steps were learn to re-regulate your nervous system. This was missing from all the therapy I used to do. I'll go to
Right.
therapy, just get all dysregulated, talking about it, go cry in my car, come back the next week, do it all again. I wasn't getting anywhere. The woman who showed me the techniques that saved my life 30 years ago, she was a sober woman named Rachel. She's still my friend, but this was 1994, and I told her one night, "All right, I'll back up. We have a little time, right? I can tell you what happened."
Yes, yes.
What happened was I was hitting bottom, and I had had my heart broken by somebody incredibly important to me like months before that, and I was just like never the same after that. Then my mom died. My mom asked me to assist with her suicide.
What?
It didn't come off, thank goodness, because I would have flipped out. But before I went down to do that with her, and she never ended up doing it. I feel like I want to reassure everybody. It didn't come off. She was just really sick, and she had a peaceful death eventually from her cancer. But that's what we thought was the plan, and I was going to go down there, but before it happened, I got randomly assaulted on the street. These
Oh
four
man.
guys jumped out of a car and beat me unconscious and broke my jaw and my teeth.
What?
Uh-huh. And And I went to the emergency room, then they treated the medical problem. The doctor said, "We've done a CAT scan, you're fine." I wasn't fine. I had really bad PTSD. And as often happens, an adult trauma like that will open up the genie bottle of your childhood trauma. Like I was kind of holding it together until then. And I just lost it. I couldn't function. I was crying all the time. I was shooting my mouth off. And I went to the therapist and I had state money. They give you money if you're a victim of a violent crime. So I could go to unlimited therapy. So I went 3 times a week and we would talk and talk about this assault. She'd go, "Okay, let's go over again. What happened?" "Well, the car pulled up. Then what did they say? Then what happened? When did you know that, you know?" And we just kept going over it. Even to this day, when I talk about it, my heart speeds up.
Wow.
Talking about trauma does not
Right.
help trauma for me.
Right.
And I became suicidally depressed. A couple months of this, and I was getting worse and not better. My job wouldn't let me take time off. I was supposed to take a few months off. I had a concussion and all that, but they said, "No, you're going to lose your job." I couldn't not go to work. And I went to work. And one day I was really frustrated with my health plan because I couldn't get in to deal with my broken jaw. And I was emotionally dysregulated in front of everybody. I was like the marketing director of this nonprofit. I had this
Yeah.
job, shitty paying job, but that wouldn't give me time off. But I was talking and I said, "I'm just so pissed off." And they were like, "Well, what's going on?" And I was just like, "I don't know. It's just times like this. I wish I had a gun."
Wow.
I said that at work. And I saw on everybody's face, they went like, they were just like, "Ugh." And I looked at their faces and I thought, was that inappropriate? And I was just like, damn, I got to get out of here. I'm not okay. I'm going to lose my job. And I wasn't going to harm anybody. That wasn't really the thought. It was that
Right.
I was completely checked out of like how to be like appropriate in society.
Yeah.
I had severe PTSD. So I told my friend, I barely knew her, and I said, "I think I have to end my life. There's not really any hope for me. I'm doing therapy. I'm at the doctor. I'm getting worse. I'm a bad person." She said, you know what? So I used to live on the street in the Tenderloin. And when I was 17, I had to get sober because I couldn't hold it down anymore. And I was really unhappy. I was sad all the time in AA, sober, but sad. And then somebody showed me how to do this thing. Do you want to learn it? And I was like, okay.
Right.
And she showed me how to, like, every day, twice a day, write my fears and resentments in a specific format, not just like venting, but like a prayer, like, God, I have fear that I can't make it in this world. And I'm resentful at my boss because I have fear. She thinks I'm like this criminal, and fear, she thinks that I'm dangerous, and fear I'm going to lose my job. And then ask God to remove it. And she said, now go learn meditation and meditate for 20 minutes afterwards. And I didn't learn meditation right away. I wrote all night, and I finally got some sleep, and I woke up, and for the first time since my assault, I like felt kind of good, kind of okay. Yeah.
Right.
And so she said, well, keep doing it and call me and read to me if you want. So she became like my sponsor. And
Right.
she was in AA and I wasn't. And so I would write and I would read to her. And within 2 weeks, I didn't have PTSD anymore. I was really
Wow.
focused
Meditation. Look at that.
and writing, expressing my grief and pain in writing, not words. And it turns out
Okay.
there's a different neural pathway. Bill W. was a genius for figuring that out. You write your fourth step, you write it, and then you read it to somebody else. Writing and reading is a neural pathway that doesn't re-trigger the trauma. So if I just sit here and talk therapy style about what happened, I just fall apart. I can write it and read it. And so that's what saved my life. And then that became my daily practice. And it took me a long time to learn to change the trauma-driven behaviors that my life was just like bogged down with, but I was re-regulated. And it came in a series of like revelations, when I was first shown, when I came back from that period of atheism of like, I'm not going to do this anymore. I came back. And then when I found out that there's a name for this, and it's complex PTSD, and it is something like alcoholism. It's a thing, it's a thing. And it's not it's not caused by other, it's that whole premise. I love Al-Anon, but the whole idea that my qualifier is somebody else's drinking, I'm much better like, no, the reason I have trouble is because I have CPTSD, and I focus on that. And at the time in my Al-Anon meetings, talking about CPTSD was an outside issue. So how this all got started, you asked me how I started.
Right.
I said in a meeting, I read this book. It was The Body Keeps the Score. I read this book.
Yeah, a great one.
And CPTSD is a thing. And I'm like, it's blown my mind. And if anybody, I know it's an outside issue, but if you want to talk about it, come see me. Everybody in the meeting came to me after the meeting. I said, well, let's meet at my house tonight. So for a few weeks, we met at my house. And I told people about the book, and they bought it and they read it, and people were talking. But it soon became very chaotic because everybody was just coming in and telling about their trauma.
Right. So it was like a trauma dumping thing. And
it was a trauma dumping shit show.
Yeah.
And so I knew that I needed a way to talk about this that was structured like a 12-step meeting, but not governed by the traditions, because for the time being, I would have to like run the show.
Right.
And so I started it as a blog, and I started teaching how I did my daily practice on a blog in 2016. And then I made some videos. And then the video, I called it, when I had to make a blog, I called it Your Healing Year. But I used to work like in public health, and that was me just like very locked into like, let's just be very prissy about this.
Right.
And I was like, it's kind of funny though, the guy who said I was a 1 in 30 to him, I made a cartoon of him, I was just like, it's funny now. And so like, you're younger than me, I think, but do you remember Fractured Fairy Tales? It was like this cartoon. It was this cartoon it was already old when I was a little kid. But this little fairy, she was like this little Brooklyn janitor lady, She had like wings, and she'd come out. I don't think she really had a cigarette, but I remember having a cigarette, and she'd come out and have this wand, and they'd play this like scratchy music, and she'd come in and settle down, and then she'd go with her wand.
Wow.
But it was just like this, like, yeah, my mom's. So I have this, like, she's like Brooklyn with a cigarette, just
I
like,
love it.
It's a miracle. Yeah. I was like, that's it. That's my mascot. And so I called it Crappy Childhood Fairy. And my sons at the time, they were teenagers and they're like, no, moms cannot be on YouTube. YouTube is like this cool thing. And
Right.
so I showed them. The channel just took off.
Wow.
And it grew me as a person, creating content about whenever I shared my honest experiences with what it was like to be me, I would get a lot of resonance. Occasionally something was just me. But I found out a lot about what is this thing by sharing my experience and letting other people talk back to me about it. So eventually it was like courses, workshops, coaching programs, and books about it. And it's a whole thing now.
I love it. And you were connecting to people, again, through your channel, through your like talking and, conveying your trauma, you started finding people that was of,
Yeah.
the like energies. And that helps me with sobers though. Like over the years, when I lose touch in the middle of the night, you get an email from someone and it grounds you. I remember one email. I was like, you know what? It's going on 4 years of this podcast. I think I've said everything I could say about
Yeah.
recovery. And this girl's in the middle. I just randomly, I rolled over, used the bathroom, looked at my phone and saw an email and it said, tonight was my night. It was my night and I was going to do it. I was going to kill myself. And and your podcast came across and I listened to an episode and you saved my life tonight. I don't know where you are if you're going to read this, but you saved my life tonight.
Oh, yeah.
I never heard from her again, but that one thing that rewired me. I was like, okay, we're on to something here. It's not just about me, it's bigger than me. And I'm not the only person experiencing my pain is unique to me and it's important, but there's a shared experience around the world with people going through similar things or, parallel issues. So
When you were still in your pain, did you feel like fundamentally different from other people? Did you feel like?
Yeah, I'm still fundamentally, I was always a little, not off, but, I had my name Poppy came from my abnormal energy. I was always bouncing, jumping, flipping, running. I was always the most joyful person. Even in my darkness around my dad, I will be trying to console other people.
Wow.
People are coming to my dad's funeral and I'm like, how are you doing? Are you okay? And I'm just a kid. It was my nature to be the giver, the healer. And to my own detriment throughout my whole life, I would kind of ignore what I needed by giving others what I think they needed.
Yeah.
So I was the type that would give you all my food out my refrigerator, but won't think about, hey, what am I going to eat for the next couple of weeks? Person. So I had to learn a lot about myself. And one thing you said, which was really healthy to hear it, is I'm still kind of that person that has everyone kind of like this in my recovery. And I kind of have my girl and my few friends that I trust. And I don't always see family. We talk a lot, but it's this very disconnected, like kind of like way of living. It's either through text messages but when it comes to actually meeting up, I flake and I think it was a protective mechanism for my recovery. And then I just grew into kind of like in solitude and peace. Like you said, it's less trauma. Now I know how to go. I do have fun when I go out and I do like, okay, I got to do this more. But it's not what I need anymore. For most of my life, I needed the connectability. I needed to be in people's faces. I needed to be a party. So I'm learning to just embrace my peace and what I like. I need less to exist, so to say, now. Before I needed so much. I needed the alcohol. I needed the girl. I needed my friends. I needed this. I needed that. Now it's kind of like, I'm good with the bare minimum and I'm happy. I'm a minimalist, or I'm emotional minimalist at this point, I think. So
Was there ever an experience where you felt like you found your people at last?
Not quite. I'm a very complex kid. They're very far in between.
Yeah.
So I have a tribe, but they're scattered. It's not like it's you know what I mean? Like I'm like an outlier amongst my friends, so to say. But I'm getting closer, but I feel like not quite yet. I still have a lot of room to grow and I'm still searching. I'm letting it happen through osmosis. That's another thing. I'm not pushing my agenda. I just let life come to me, and I feed off of people who are like sensible and similar to myself, or that's complementary to me, right?
Yes.
You get that naturally. Like I'm meeting you, and I say to myself, huh, this is the person that I maybe could, I could relate to and talk to and have a real clear conversation with, and I could kind of understand and connect with. You put that in your bag and you keep moving forward, so to say.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think well, like when you got sober, meeting sober people, was that like a flash of recognition of people who get it? Like you didn't have to hide who you really were?
Yes. Yes, in a sense that like I just never really buddied up to people in recovery. I was kind of like while we were at meetings, we had this kumbaya moment, but it
Yeah.
wasn't like out of like that. I'm hanging out with large groups of people in
Yeah.
recovery. I'm just literally, I don't know. I'm still feel like it's day one. I have December make 13 years, and I live like not a recluse. That's too much, but I had zero desire or need or want to
Yeah.
go outside of myself. And like even like when my girls say, "Oh, I got us an event we're going through and all of that," and I'm like, "Oh, why did you book something? Like where and why? Well, I gotta check it out. I gotta make sure."
Yeah.
She goes, "Don't worry, calm down, calm down." She has this way of being like, "You're gonna like it, you're gonna like it," and then I wound up liking it. And I'm accepting to it. I don't think it's a form of trauma. I think for so many years I gave so much energy of myself to people that I'm just naturally retired emotionally. I feel like I got to this high point, and I'm just like, okay, I changed. So I'll give you an example. I'm a musician. So my friends would compare the old me to the new me. Your older
Uh-huh.
music was a little bit, had so much edge. You had all of this energy, and I have to remind them and say, yes, but I'm not the 20-year-old kid I used to be. You still expected me to show up as a 20-year-old version that you remember. And I'm a 45-year-old man now. Then this is who I am, and this is how I manifested in my now, and I'm happy. And I don't have, you're never, I feel like my friends feel like we lost an energy that we knew. It was this jubilant, and now I'm just chill. I never was chill, you know.
Yeah.
In the past, I would have been running around the house with the laptop. I would have been out. You'd have been like, "Are you outside? We're on a Zoom. Like we're in a meeting." You know, I'd have been running around. I was a little off, like an energetic, like I said, a Tasmanian devil, so to say. So I'm really happy with how I grew up, and I'm
Yeah.
happy that I'm calm now, and I'm happy that I require less, and that means that I evolve spiritually a lot, also.
Yeah. 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 Me too. Me
Yeah,
too. That's turned out to be everything.
yeah,
Yeah. Where
yeah.
you're working for the greater mission, now. Yeah. Life is a lot less threatening to me because I know what I'm here to try to do.
Right,
I get a
right,
lot of meaning and purpose out of just showing up, making my videos, telling the truth of what things
right,
are like, trying to be
right,
helpful, listening
right.
to people. It makes me so happy. I used to feel so empty. I used to feel like life was passing me by, and I knew I had this gut instinct. It's like I'm supposed to be doing something more.
Right. We have something that we didn't talk about, which is a big theme of mine. I think you'll like this.
Mhm.
One of the major tools I implement into the Sober is Dope program and everything is creativity. Now,
Ooh.
follow me for a minute. There's a famous movie called Glengarry Glen Ross where
Uh-huh.
they had the big term always be closing, right? You
Right,
close
ABC.
the ABCs.
Yeah.
So in recovery, my ABCs of recovery is always be creating.
Uh-huh.
Because here's my theory. You could be very busy relapsing, very busy being toxic, and you can even be creative doing it. But when I say creative, I'm talking about almost, if you do believe in God or a higher power, I would say to people, God, if you don't want to do it with denominations, is the creator. It creates things, planets, stars, universes, some forces making things. And when we create things, it says the surge of dopamine to our brain, it rewires our brain, it reduces depression, and it gives you a sense of purpose, and you always feel better afterwards. So,
Yeah.
for example, if you draw a painting, you get this release. Look at this thing I made. You want to look at it all day. You want to show it to people. You're happy. So my disconnect in my addiction was it cut me off from creating. I wasn't making music. I wasn't making art. I wasn't using my mind. I was just stuck and sleeping somewhere. So I tell people always be creating. So now when you do your videos, when you're doing a coaching, when you write your new book, when you're working, you're engaging it, you're absolutely participating in the highest calling of our human experience is to mirror creation and to create. And I tell people by doing this, it's so much clinical and scientific evidence about creativity and just making new things and how that heals the brain. And that's one of the things that keeps me so content. That brings me to contentment. So now instead of needing to be a wallflower and hanging around 1,000 people and a social butterfly, I get so much more than I ever got from my drug of choice, which was alcohol, than I got from a group of people in the room by just staying in the creative process. And it's not a chore. It's like and then my brain goes through these sessions. Like right now, I'm on a podcast, sober as dope, creative high, so to say. Pardon the pun, everyone, But tomorrow will be music because I own a record label. So tomorrow I'm like, oh, they're gonna be like, he's on Instagram rapping now. And then I have an art company. Then it'll be like, oh, now it's the art. And in September it's the movies. And then I go through these, I stay busy and it's healing for me. And I always tell people that's what you're most likely missing on your recovery journey or your healing journey. Because people get sober and they just go to work and come home. I'm like, okay, but you're following someone else's, you're participating every day in someone else's creative process to make a check.
Yeah.
So when you get off of work, where's your creative process? What's your thing? And people go, I never thought about that. So I say, if you always want to be this is my greatest analogy, and I'll close it here with this part of my theory. If you're 80 years old and you always want to be a rock star, a rock and roll star, what I tell people is go buy your guitar, go get your leather outfit, and go outside and play the guitar. If you don't, you can still be a rock star at 80. Don't let age or limitations or your addiction or the time lost stop you from creative expression. And watch your brain come alive. That's just one theory. It's 100 things I recommend to people to help deactivate the trauma, to heal out of it and stuff. But creativity is a central calling to everyone.
It's better to be older. I was so hung up about stuff. I was a comedian in my 20s.
Oh, wow.
I was so I was good, but I wasn't in recovery yet, and I didn't have coping tools to deal with that life.
Right.
I just got so dysregulated. I got chronic fatigue syndrome and just collapsed. So it took me years to come back, and I studied video production, but I couldn't get a job. Later, when I was 45, I started a video production company. When I was 55, I started Crappy Childhood Fairy. Like all my best work came out of nowhere, totally disconnected from previous careers. And then I recorded my first music in a recording studio a couple of weeks ago with my friend. Yeah.
I love it. And you feel awesome, right?
Yeah. And we're going to make it's just by fluke. I made friends with a guy who in the 90s was one of the top music video directors. And we became friends. I'm like, hey, would you make a music video with us? And he said, sure. So we're going to make a music video.
I love it. And when you go, when you made that song, you wanted to listen. When you listened to it, you felt this magic. Like that's what I'm talking about. That's that kind of like spiritual, psychological, neurological connection through creativity. You're in the alignment of what you was made to do.
Yeah.
I think boredom and just being stuck and people getting disconnected from their personal talents and their personal innate intrinsic expression or ability to create and express is such a limitation to the soul that it causes so much issues that goes away if you just get back into it. That's why I always ask people, if I'm coaching or if I'm doing anything, what were you excited about when you was younger? Were you a painter? Did you sing music? Did you want to be a gymnast? Like, what were you, like, I was into karate. So I think it's a bigger part of me that's like, go back to martial arts school. I always loved it.
Yeah.
Right. I loved it as a kid. Maybe it's something there for me. And the last part of it is that I look forward to these new meaningful friendships, and I trust life to bring them to me. So I'm very patient. Like I really spent 13 years building my relationship with my girl through thick and thin. Like even when I was in recovery, we were both totally codependent enablers. We was in our addiction together. I got sober first. She didn't get sober till about 11 years into my recovery. So I dealt with her whirlwind for all of that time because I was patient, a little bit older, and I loved her. Now we're like really together and thriving. We went through all of these ups and downs. And then we had this peace. And then I'm like, okay, that taught me about relationships and how humans can grow together if you don't judge or put limitations on each other. Right now, we have this beautiful adult blossoming of understanding, love, passion, and just being on the same page because I just didn't throw in the towel and she didn't either. So now I'm looking at relationships as things that needs to be cultivated properly.
Yeah.
Time, time, giving yourself time to love, especially in recovery. People get in recovery and you have this loneliness. Everyone out is on Friday night doing their thing. You have the fear of missing out. You have all of these living through comparison things that bog us down. So we're healing on so many fronts. I say all of that to say with our trauma and everything, you can see it's so many levels to unpack. And that's why the world needs people like you and myself and everyone else out there that's taking on trauma, healing from it, and going forth and showing people that there's a way out of the darkness. So you're such an inspiration, Anna.
USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks, or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Visit USAA.com/bundle. Bundle savings are off total premium, not available in all states or in all situations. To qualify, auto policy must be active prior to property policy issue, subject to change. Restrictions apply. Membership eligibility and product restrictions apply and are subject to change. USAA means United Services Automobile Association and its affiliates, San Antonio, Texas.
When you wanna grow your list size, pop up like it's hot, pop up like it's hot, pop up like it's hot. And when you gotta boost your revenue, pop up like it's hot, hey, pop up like it's hot, pop up like it's hot. Pick your favorite template, you can tailor to your brand. They're MailChimp-erific, you're gonna be a fan. MailChimp your marketing with our new customizable pop-ups.
Thank you. And I love, it's just such a pleasure for me to talk to somebody who's sober. It means more than you can imagine because almost all my family died of it.
Oh, wow.
They never had sobriety. They couldn't find it for whatever reason. And knowing sober people is always like this deep delight for me of like, see, miracles do happen.
Oh, yeah.
Changes that take place in people's lives. Like, oh, it's so powerful.
It's powerful.
It's powerful, yeah. And what I've learned from people in recovery too is what trauma people have. This is what, you used to have like alcoholism or an addiction to access this. But the tools to change your life, like actual practical tools, no bullshit,
Right.
Tools. And then other people who are walking the path with you, who get it, who you get to watch their struggles and their successes, and you learn really fast in that environment. And so that's what I've tried to create for Crappy Childhood Fairy is the concrete tools, the community, where people can do that and accelerate their learning. Because basically, after trauma, we're dealing with a developmental delay. We haven't learned how to do life yet.
I love that.
Yeah.
Developmental delay. That is heavy. I called it what's the term I usually arrested development or something?
Yeah, same thing.
Right. Oh wow. So before we close, I have a witness now, everyone. Since I started Sober is Dope, I've been a big proponent and advocate for meditation. Can you just, for someone out there who's on the fence about meditation or think it's woo-woo, which is not, it's so much science to regrow your gray matter in your brain. It helps your nervous system, theta waves, all that. It's extremely healing. And I live by it. Any recommendations as the tools that I don't want you to give away all your tools. So I want people to come to you and actually get tailored tools that they need.
My best tools are free and easy to give away. But
okay.
I think for people who are like, if you're dysregulated all the time, if you have ADHD, meditation is too tall an order. It's like very hard to sit there. Okay. I don't even have ADHD. I just got tested, to make sure I don't have it. But because of this thing, I have a hard time. I've been meditating now 31 years and it got harder. And I just had to realize like there's stuff going on in my life that are taking me away from the capacity to rest. So when I first learned meditation, I learned transcendental meditation, also called Vedic meditation.
Yes.
And it was handy for me because it it's so undemanding. We would call it Mick meditate. You just sit there. You just sit there and rest and close your eyes. You don't have to breathe or focus on not thinking or anything. It's very forgiving of somebody who has a mind like a bag of cats.
Right.
I can rest. I can do that. And then, like the guy who taught me, I go, well, I thought the whole time. And he go, yeah, it's okay. Or I fell asleep. You must have been tired. It was very forgiving, and forgiving meditation is so helpful. But I always am writing my fears and resentments on paper and asking for them to be removed before I meditate. And I think that clears up a lot of the noise.
Right.
Meditation possible. At the same time, if you only write and you don't meditate, I've noticed, and I've had the privilege of, hanging out with Dr. James Pennebaker, who did all the like peer-reviewed studies on the therapeutic value of writing.
Okay.
For things in a general way. And that for people who have had trauma, when you're facing all that stuff, it's exhausting on a level that you can't necessarily feel, but you'll give up after a while. You can't continue with it if you don't have a way to then rest. And I think I don't have a special device that reads my brain, but I've done this for so long. This is what I notice happens. I write. It doesn't feel like that much. Occasionally it's emotional, but I write. I shut it down. I tear it up so other people don't read it. It's not for keeping. It's not a journal. I tear it up. I've given it away. And then I have my meditation, and my mind is able to go into a little bit more rest because I wrote. And while I'm meditating, I can feel almost that things are sorting themselves out like a Tetris game. Everything's sort of coming into place. It couldn't do it when it was so noisy in there. And then stuff falls into place. And that's when I might get a little insight. Sometimes nothing happens in meditation. You just do it. You put in the time.
Right.
But sometimes I'm like, I see what I need to do next. I see, like, insight comes. And that was the most
beautiful thing I heard in a long time. Wow. Because I've been doing this 30 to like a long time since I was a kid. I was like a little monk as a kid. Like I studied this stuff on my own. My family was Catholic. My brother was a priest. So I used to be in martial arts. So I used to study the monks, and I just was doing this all by myself. My dad would save up money to send me to jujitsu school. And I was a kid studying meditation. I was into it. And you just taught me so much. The writing, throwing it away, but giving it away and releasing and then going back in. And game changer. That's so much value right there. Thank you so much.
I love that you were a spiritual kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was too. I went off at age 11 to church, and my parents were like, "What are you doing? Church is stupid." And
right. And you know what? I want to wrap here. And this is deep for anyone. I just always think about the world and life, and I say, I hope by the time it's all said and done, the world doesn't change me enough to give up on the magic and hope of spirituality.
Oh yeah,
that beautiful, sacred little. I witnessed, well, this is probably something we could talk about offline, but I experienced little mini miracles in my life. Actual visceral visits and next level. But healings and all type of stuff. I could write a book on it. But lately, I'm just like, aliens, Baja. Angel, Baja. Like I'm like an old jaded saint who just retired, like seen it all, been there, done that. And that's what I don't want to lose. I don't want to lose the reverence for magic, spirituality, and beauty.
Enchanted world.
It's enchanted, and sometimes the world could disconnect us etherically, spiritually, mentally, psychologically, emotionally. So let's stay grounded and stay in the magic. Don't let the world beat you up that much, and don't let your trauma hurt you so much that you can't see the color, the flowers, smell the roses, and all of that stuff anymore.
Yeah.
So
pleasure talking to you, Pop.
Oh, pleasure talking to you too.
Lift it up.
Yeah, I feel great. So for the recovery community for Sober is Dope, if anyone wanted to find you, where can they find you? How can they get your books, and how can they join your coaching?
So you can find me on crappychildhoodfairy.com. That's the website. And then the YouTube channel, most people start there because it's so accessible to watch a video where I teach about something. And that channel is called Crappy Childhood Fairy. So you can find that there. My books, my last name's Runkle, Anna Runkle. You might not remember that, but the book Connectability, You can get it on Amazon or anywhere online, and have it right now.
All right, all right. Anna, thank you so much for blessing us with your presence. You gave us a lot of insight. This is going to be a well-received episode. I think everyone on here needs to hear how people can heal from their childhood and complex PTSD and trauma. And you did a great job, and you're a beautiful soul. So thank you for joining
Thank
us.
you.
All right, you listen to Sober is Dope. That's a wrap for our amazing episode with Anna Runkle. God bless you all. Go in peace. Don't give up on yourself. Let's stay connected. Don't give up on the magic. I love you, and we'll catch you all on the other side. Peace and love.